All right, let's talk about keys for success for Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers against Georgia's defense. We're going to talk about Quinn. We're going to talk about Georgia's defense. And then we're going to look at some film here in about 2 or 3 minutes. Actually, we're going to look at some film of Georgia's defense and how some teams have had success against them. Then look at a few clips from Quinn and a few plays I think he's going to have to do and repeat throughout the game against Georgia to have success. So before we talk about Quinn, let's talk about Georgia's defense real quick. I have kind of 2 main questions or 2 main keys that I want to bring up. Number one, which version of Georgia's defense do we get? Do we get the version of the games against Kentucky and against Auburn, where they gave up 12 points and 13 points, or the version against Alabama, where they gave up 41, and even against Mississippi State, where they gave up 31 points? Like, Georgia's defense obviously is extremely talented, but we maybe seen a few more fluctuations than we have in the past, right? So the main key that Georgia wants to do is they want to disrupt the offense by bringing pressure. And 4 SEC games so far, they've blitzed 53% of the quarterbacks dropbacks. Against Alabama, and I think against Kentucky too, they blitzed more than 60%, or at least 60% of the quarterbacks dropbacks. That leads me to my second question. What will they do against Texas? Will they bring pressure as heavily as they have so far in SEC play? Or will they try to confuse Quinn in a different way? Because so far, Quinn's been pretty good against the blitz. 4 touchdowns and 0 picks against the blitz. So every one of his interceptions, I think he has 3 so far, has been when the defense has not blitzed, has been when they've dropped 7 or 8 guys. So those are my 2 main questions. 1, what version of Georgia's defense do we get? And 2, what will they do as far as blitzing Quinn or just trying to get pressure with 4 guys? Now, Texas's offensive line may be the best in the country. So can you get pressure, right? So what's Georgia's main way to attack? Kirby's 1,000 times smarter than I'll ever be on defense. So that remains to be seen. But we will look at a few clips here in a second of Georgia's defense and how teams have had success in the past. But let's talk about Quinn real quick before we look at the film. So the main key for Quinn, I got 4 main keys for Quinn. And Quinn has had success in big games in the past, right? Obviously, everyone brings up Alabama, but then you have Michigan, the big house this year. You have Oklahoma from a few years ago, and even last year and this year, he started off really slow. And last year he had a good game. This year was, off and a little rusty still, but still managed to do enough to have a big win. So key number 1, I think, is you want to have a fast start. You don't want to have any of that extra quote unquote rust to beat Georgia. So have a fast start. How do you have a fast start? Well, I think you're going to have success against the blitz, especially if they do decide to blitz you. Like we talked about, he's been better against the blitz. 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, and his yards per attempt are 8.9, which is higher than whenever teams are not blitzing him. Key number 2, I want to utilize play action to get him comfortable, especially if that run game is able to get going. But even if it's not, I want to use play action to get comfortable and help Quinn settle in. He was much more comfortable last year off of play action. Key number 3, I'm going to buy some time with my legs, improvise a little bit. Even though you have a solid offensive line, even though Georgia's defense hasn't been able to get much pressure as they have in the past. They only have, I think, 10 sacks the whole season so far. So they haven't been able to get as much pressure, or at least sacks, so far this season. But you still want to be able to buy time with your legs, like you did against Michigan whenever you didn't necessarily have pressure, but you maneuvered in the pocket, stepped up, and made a good throw. And then the last key, I think you're going to have to hit on a deep shot or 2 to end up beating Georgia. So far, 32 of his 77 completions have been behind line of scrimmage. And that's just part of Sark's games, right? A lot of quick games, a lot of screens, get the ball out quickly. But UGA will be keyed on this. So can you utilize what you've done in the past to set up some deep throws? Again, 32 of his 77 completions so far this season have been behind line of scrimmage. So can you hit on a few deep shots to, 1, get the defense from creeping in, and then 2, utilize them from thinking you're going to go quick, and hit a deep shot, especially early on in the game. If you can do this early in the game, I think that would be huge for the Longhorns. So we're going to look at some film. We're going to look at how a few teams, how Bama and how Mississippi State has had some success against Georgia's defense. Then look at Quinn and look at him throwing off play action, hitting the ball, throwing the ball deep, and having success against the blitz, something that he'll have to do against Georgia. So let's go ahead and look at this clips, and then we'll wrap this video up. So we're going to look at a few plays, 3 plays against Georgia's defense. And this is broadcast footage, so I do apologize. I have to slow it down, but it does do a good enough job getting the point across. So we're going to look at 3 clips, 2 from Mississippi State, 1 from Alabama, of the offense having success against Georgia's defense. Then we're going to look at a few clips of Quinn Ewers. Here's a deep ball by Mississippi State. We're going to see play action. Again, we talked about Quinn being comfortable off play action. We see a delayed blitz here, and then taking a shot downfield. So Georgia has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenders all within, 8 yards line of scrimmage. on a 2nd and 12. So they only have 3 DBs deep, essentially. And so it's a good job of Mississippi State taking advantage of that and pushing the ball downfield. We talked about, I think Quinn's going to have to take some shots downfield. I think there could potentially be some shots to be taken downfield, especially if UGA is keying in on these short completions that Texas has. And like, Georgia's defense is still legit, right? Like, they know that Texas offense, relies on these short, quick passes. So if they take that away, if they just let you have that and keep everything in front, eventually you're going to have to move the ball downfield, and pushing it vertically maybe how you do it. So here's clip number 2. This is against the blitz. And again, we talked about Georgia is blitzing 60-something percent of the time against SEC opponents when the quarterback is dropping back to pass. So we're going to see a good job against the blitz. It's a 4th and goal. They bring, how many do they have? 5, 6? That they're blitzing. It's a good job. Look, as a quarterback, you're taught wherever the blitzer is coming from, that's the open space, and that's exactly what happens here. So it's a good job by Mississippi State quarterback for a touchdown here. And we talked about how good Quinn has been against the blitz. We're going to watch Quinn throwing against the blitz here in a second. And look, I'm kind of cherry picking these plays against Georgia's defense just to show what teams have done to have success against them. Georgia has still had plenty of success on defense as well this year, so you can go back and watch those clips too. So last clip we're going to look at is Alabama opening drive, push the ball downfield, having success vertically. So this is Georgia just bring force. They're not blitzing. And like we talked about, just because they blitz a ton doesn't mean they blitz every play, right? It's very strategic when they do. But regardless, there's 7 guys dropping back. Miller will push the ball downfield. So I do think there's opportunity, man, to see if your receivers can beat Georgia's DBs, if Quinn can make some tough throws downfield. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Quinn. Again, we talked about success for Quinn success is going to have to look like utilizing play action. At least I think you have to use play action. Okay, what's happening here? I apologize. Let me pause real quick. You have to utilize play action. You have to push the ball downfield vertically and then have success against the blitz. So here's the first clip. It's going to be against Michigan, against the 3rd and 13. It was a vertical shot downfield, 20, 30-something yards in the air. I think Quinn's going to have to hit on a few of these. If you can hit on these early, like this is early in the game, if you can hit on these throws early, I think that can do a lot offensively and can open up some more underneath stuff. And then eventually Georgia's not going to be able to key all on the short, quick passing game. They're going to have to focus on the vertical game as well. So I think key number 1 is hit on a few of these deep throws. Like we talked about, 32 completions. 32 of his 77 completions have been behind line of scrimmage, which is fine. That's Sark's offense. But against a defense like Georgia, I think you're going to have some vertical throws. Key number 2, play action. So we see play action here, and I think Quinn is more comfortable off of play action. Utilize play action to get him comfortable, get him going, and then you see Quinn utilize his legs here. There is some pressure. Yeah, I was wrong. I was going to say there's not pressure there, but there is pressure there. He utilizes his legs, keeps his eyes downfield. He's a good enough of an athlete to have the defense kind of have to key in on him when he starts moving, and he throws really good on the run. We saw a good throw against Oklahoma last week on the run. That was his probably best play. The only throw that went 20-plus yards downfield was that throw on the run against Oklahoma. So he's comfortable throwing on the run and improvising. And here's the last key that we talked about, being good against the blitz. We're going to see Oklahoma brings, is it 5 or 6 here? They bring 5, then maybe a delayed blitz later. And we're going to see Quinn does a good job just replacing where the blitz is coming from. Like we looked at in the Georgia video, and we talked about quarterbacks are taught wherever the blitzer is coming from, you throw to that space. His space would have been over here. Throw that space, let your receivers do the rest of the work, right? So like we talked about how often Georgia blitzes. And the biggest question we had, or one of the biggest questions we had when we talked about Georgia's defense is, are they going to blitz Quinn as much as they have other quarterbacks so far in the SEC? I don't know. Remains to be seen. But Quinn has had a lot of success against the blitz. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing what Georgia's defense decides to do. But if you're a Texas fan, please leave us a comment in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think Quinn needs to do? What are the keys for success for Quinn to have? And again, I know it's a team sport, so there's a lot of other factors going on that are at play here, but we just talk about the quarterback perspective. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're a Georgia fan, let me know your thoughts as well. And as always, please subscribe if you like this SEC QB content type niche that we have going on over here. Like and share the video as well. It helps us grow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.